hope you are doing well. Today, horror incident about unseen entity or demon. In the early 1990s, I lived in Kentucky, a place filled with wide fields, tall trees, and friendly neighbors. It was a peaceful place where the nights were quiet and the days were filled with laughter. I was 5 years old, full of curiosity and energy, always ready for an adventure. One summer, something happened that I would never forget. It was a special night because our families were preparing for a trip to New York. Everyone was awake, even though it was very late. The clock showed it was around 3 or 4 in the morning. My family and my cousin's family were all gathered in the kitchen, having an early breakfast before the long drive. The aroma of pancakes and eggs filled the air, making my stomach rumble with excitement. I was lying next to my cousin, who was much older than me. He was 15, tall and strong, someone I looked up to. We were both watching cartoons in the living room, waiting for the adults to finish packing. The TV was our window to a world of colorful characters and funny stories, a welcome distraction from the sleepy early hours. Suddenly the TV turned off. The screen went black, and the room fell silent. I remember the moment clearly because it felt so strange. The lights were still on, but the cartoons were gone. I looked at my cousin, and he looked back at me, confusion in his eyes. Before we could say anything, something even stranger happened. From behind the TV, a figure began to emerge. It looked like a tree trunk, with a face as big as a very large 20-inch pizza pie. The face was hollow with big, empty eyes and an overly large mouth that took up most of its surface. It had a huge nose too, making it look even more bizarre. The figure kept stretching upwards until its head touched the ceiling of our room, which was no less than 10 to 12 feet high. It had no visible arms or legs, just a long, black body and that big, strange face. My cousin was gasping, his eyes wide with fear. I was stunned, unable to move or speak. I wasn't scared because I didn't know what it was. To me, it was like something out of a cartoon, another odd character in a strange world. The figure didn't stay for long. It thinned out of existence, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. The room was quiet again, the TV still off, the lights still on. My cousin and I sat there for a moment, trying to understand what had just happened. Finally, my cousin spoke. "Did you see that?" he asked, his voice trembling. I nodded, still trying to process what I had seen. "What was it?" I asked. He shook his head. "I don't know." We didn't tell anyone about the figure that night. We were too shocked and confused, unsure if anyone would believe us. Instead, we joined our families in the kitchen, where the adults were still busy with their preparations. The strange figure became a secret shared between us, something to talk about in hushed voices when no one else was around. 3 years later, when I was 8, I had another strange experience. This time it happened during a visit to my cousin's house in the village. It was my first visit back home after moving away, and I was excited to see everyone again. The village was a place of fond memories, where I had spent many happy days playing with my cousins. One afternoon, we decided to play a game of hide and seek. There were 7 of us, and we were all eager to find the best hiding spots. My cousin's house had a storeroom, a small, cluttered space filled with old furniture, boxes, and other odds and ends. It seemed like the perfect place to hide. 6 of us squeezed into the storeroom, trying to stay as quiet as possible while the 7th person, the seeker, counted outside. We whispered and giggled, the excitement of the game making it hard to stay silent. The room was dimly lit, with only a small window letting in a bit of sunlight. As we waited, something unexpected happened. A blanket that had been lying on top of a box suddenly floated into the air. It moved slowly, as if lifted by an invisible hand, and then fell back down. We all saw it, our eyes wide with surprise and fear. "Did you see that?" one of my cousins whispered, her voice trembling. We nodded, too scared to speak. Without another word, we ran out of the storeroom, our game of hide and seek forgotten. We burst into the open, our hearts pounding in our chests. The seeker looked at us, confused. "What happened?" he asked. We tried to explain, all talking at once, our words stumbling over each other. The blanket, it floated. It just went up and then fell down. The seeker frowned, not sure if he believed us. But we knew what we had seen. It was as real as the sun in the sky, as real as the grass under our feet. Both of these experiences stayed with me for a long time. I often thought about the strange figure that appeared in the middle of the night and the floating blanket in the storeroom. What were they? Why did they happen? I had so many questions but no answers. I talked to my cousin about the midnight visitor sometimes. He remembered it just as clearly as I did. "It was so weird," he would say. "I've never seen anything like it." As I grew older, I began to wonder if there was a logical explanation for what we had seen. Maybe it was a trick of the light, or perhaps our imaginations had run wild in the early morning hours. But no matter how much I tried to rationalize it, the memory of that strange figure remained vivid and clear. The floating blanket was another mystery. We had all seen it, and there was no way we could have imagined the same thing at the same time. I asked my cousins about it, and they all remembered it too. "It was so creepy," one of them said. "I still get chills thinking about it." As time passed, I learned to accept that some things might never have a clear explanation. The world is full of mysteries, and sometimes all we can do is acknowledge them and move on. The memories of those strange events became stories that I shared with friends and family, tales of the unexplained that sparked curiosity and wonder. Living in Kentucky had given me many wonderful memories, and even the strange experiences were a part of that. They added a touch of mystery to my childhood, a sense of wonder that stayed with me as I grew older. When I visited my cousin's house again years later, I walked into the storeroom where the blanket had floated. It was just an ordinary room filled with old things, but standing there brought back the memory of that day. I smiled, thinking of how scared we had been, and how those moments had become a part of our shared history. In the end, the midnight visitor and the floating blanket remained unsolved mysteries. But they taught me an important lesson, that life is full of unexpected moments, and sometimes the best thing we can do is embrace the mystery and enjoy the story it gives us. It's my advice: if you ever visit, remember to be careful around the river and the forest. For the spirits there are hungry. For fear, always inquire about the house before move in. Keep yourself and others safe from any type of scary activity. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.